How's it going, everybody? My name is Absoulem, and today's video is a big step forward in potentially solving the impossible Easter egg on Shadows of Evil. So I'm going to quickly go over everything, get everybody up to speed, and kind of talk about what's happened up to this point so that we can all move forward at the same time. So in April of 2017, Jason Blundell said in an interview that he could see himself talking about this Easter egg more in 8 years' time, which was his cryptic way of saying maybe wait 8 years and then I'll give you a hint. But that would be roughly 2 years from now because the interview was in 2017. I've seen some confusion recently about the game's timeline because, it came out in 2015, so that's 8 years this year. But he didn't say this until 2017, so we're waiting 8 years from that point. But people have been hunting this, ever since the Easter egg's creation, and a bunch of stuff's been tried over the years, but nothing's really ever come of it. However, Jason has said that the community has gotten close on a couple things, but we don't know what we were close on. So a lot of people stopped hunting it, but recently Glitching Queen sparked the passion for this Easter egg once again. So over the last couple of months, we've been able to rule out a few things that we've been trying, like the diamond camo and my theory for the clock cipher on the giant and all the other maps in BO3, but nothing's really come of this, and so the trail has ran cold. Until more recently, when a member of my Discord known as Lupercal brought a forgotten piece of the map's assets and shadows to my attention. So I went digging through the map and collected as many references as I could possibly find for today's video. So what I'm talking about are these very well hidden numbers and letters that appear on signs, roofs, the ground, basically all throughout the map. Now this was known about back in the game's life cycle, however it was never flushed out fully or really looked into, so it got forgotten about pretty quickly. So here in a minute, I'm going to go through each one and kind of talk about how it made the list, but first I want to talk about how and why these are actually important. So back in the day, Jason gave us some criteria about what this impossible Easter egg would entail. He said that it would be in multiple arenas, that it would not be a code-based Easter egg, and some people think that he said it would take place outside the map. However, I can't find anywhere where he actually said that. But not to worry, because our hidden letters take place outside the map, they're in the map, they are in multiple arenas, and they're not code-based, so they can't be data mined. It's also interesting to me that these hidden letters and numbers line up with buildings that are specific to the storyline characters from Shadows of Evil and Mob of the Dead, so that's pretty cool. But also, they're not part of anything. They're not part of any previous solve or any cipher or anything. They just kind of exist on the map. And so I find it pretty unlikely, just like Noah J's Fireboat tutorial. I just don't think that Treyarch would just put this into the map for no reason. So I feel like they're there for a purpose, and it's my goal to figure out why. All right, so to break this down a little bit further, I've divided these into two different groups. I've got the obvious and the not so obvious. So what I mean by that is basically, let's use the number 2. If I found the number 2 on the back of a sign, it's just really out of place, that'd be the obvious one. But there might be an asset in the map that has the number 2, so it could or couldn't be part of this. It's not very clear if it is or isn't. So I've got the not so obvious ones as well. But right now my Discord's working to kind of refine this list. But for this video, I just wanted to be as thorough as possible. And so I've just put everything I've personally found into this video. But first, let's go through each one and I'll explain it. And then after that, we can talk about how this is all being applied. Now, for the sake of the video, I'm going to be covering these pretty quickly. But if you want to know more, leave a comment or join the Discord. So let's get started with this list. So starting with the obvious category, the first one takes place in the junction. So you'll come over here, you'll look up and you'll see the sign that says Blundell, which is most likely Jason Blundell's sign. And instead of an apostrophe, it's actually the number 9. So right there is our first obvious one. Now let's move on to the next one. The next one's also in the junction, and it's going to be the number 10. So just to the left of the Blundell sign, you'll see the select fruit sign, and the 10 is actually faded, and it's in a different font than the rest of the sign. And this one stands out because if you go to any of these other select fruit signs, the 10 is not faded. So right here, you'll see this one's very clear. But the other one is the only one in the map that's faded that I can find. So that one stands out to me as a number that is maybe standing out from the rest. This next one is going to be the letter A. It's also in the junction. It's on the Matilda sign. So the A is the only letter that's yellow. So that stands out pretty heavily. It could be a design choice for the sign or the logo, but it also could just be that it's standing out. So I'm including it in the more obvious category. There is another one in the junction that I found. It's over here next to the laundry ticket window. So you'll notice this 5 on the back of the sign is in a totally different color. It's in a different font, it seems like, and it's a lot bigger than the rest of the letters. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense to be there. And I promise you this next one is not in the junction. We're actually going to move to the waterfront district where you'll make your way to the boxing gym. And this is in a couple different locations in the map, but this one specifically right here, it says October 32nd, which is not a real date. So the number 32 stands out to us. Now, if we have 32, then it makes sense that we have a 33. So we do. It's in the canal district at the top of the pipe sign. You'll notice that the smoke makes the numbers 33. All right, now moving over to the Footlight District, you'll see the number 0 on this sign up here next to the Devil Donuts. It's actually 0 with the line through it. It's not an O, so it is a 0 right there. That stands out. And now our next one's also in Footlight, and it is going to be the extra R that is in Blazing Starlight. So Starlight spelled with one R, not two. And this is in a couple spots in the map, and it's always with the word Starlight, so we think the letter R stands out. And our next one's also in Footlight. It's going to be the palettes. So if you look at this palette, you'll notice that there's nothing special about that. It's kind of broken and no one cares about it. But if you come over to this palette, it has all the friends and it spells out H4. So that one's pretty interesting. It spells out H4 and it's found in Footlight. And now for the last more obvious one, there is the C in Morgue City that is blinking. So that one stands out in and of itself. So I'm going to put that one in this list as well. So now let's move on to the other ones that are questionable assets. So our first one is a 9. Again, it's an apostrophe. However, I think this is just the font and it just looks like a 9, but I think that's how that font would look with an apostrophe. But I felt like including it. And the exact same thing over here on the O'Leary sign. There's another apostrophe that could be interpreted as a 9. However, again, I think it's just that font face, that typography. I think that's how that would look. And moving on to our next couple, there's actually 2 right here. There's the number 16 on the side of this building and the sideways 78. Now, this could be a date of 1678, or they could be 2 separate numbers, or it could be nothing, but I felt like putting them in there because they stand out. Now, this next one's a little bit interesting to me. I find it kind of odd, so I felt like putting it in here, but it says MCTA, which is Morgue City Transport. We can assume it's probably like association, but the reason I'm including it is because the A is on nothing else. Like I searched this map and none of the maps, it's always MCT. So on the side of the buses, it's always Morgue City Transport. And on all the signs, the maps, everything that it ever mentions it's always MCT. But on that one specific sign, it says MCTA. So I don't know if like the A is different, but right here, you can see the map, it says Morgue City Transport. And then, every single instance, it says that. So I felt like including the MCTA. Now this could, if it is part of it, it could be the entire 4 letters, or it could just be the A. So I'm not really sure, but I felt like putting that in here for this one. But let's move on to the next one. So this one actually has 2 on the same sign. So the first thing I'll point out is the number 72, or it's maybe the number 2, depending on the way this font works. I'm not really sure if it's 72 or 2, but that would be TO if it is. So that's interesting. But then also the U and the I in this text also flashes. So that's another double letter. And double letters are pretty important because a lot of ciphers will use 2-letter combinations. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, another double letter over here is in an S. It's in the drinks sign over here on the side of the wall in canals. And that same asset is also across the way over here on the right side up by the perk machine. So you'll see the N and the S flashing as well. That's probably the same asset, but I felt like including it just in case it's part of this. Now, this next one's at least interesting, if nothing else, but it's the number 2 on this bottle right here. And this bottle's in multiple spots on the map. But why I picked this bottle is because in the files, there's 5 different bottles numbered 1 through 5. But this one specifically is in the director's cut of The Gift that Treyarch uploaded, where it's about Nikolai. And instead of having his classic vodka bottle, they actually have that bottle specifically on the table. So the number 2 could be important in this case as well. Now, this last one is the number 319. It's over here towards Footlight. This one doesn't really stand out too much for me, but I felt like including it. But it just didn't impress me much. That's why I put it last. But I wanted to include it on this list because it does kind of stand out. So there we go. And I also want to mention that the word hint was used for the camo thing that flashes, but there is another word in this map, and it spells hell in the Holly's Cakes sign off in the distance right there. So it could be that the word hell is used in some sort of piece of this cipher, so I wanted to include that as well. But let's move on to why and how these are being applied. All right, so now that I've covered everything, I want to mention really quick that there are duplicates and other things in this map that I didn't include, but this was the stuff I felt like was important, at least to put in this video. So here's a map of everything I talked about. I even color-coded it based on like what color it is in the map. But yeah, now we can ask the numbers. Jason, what do they mean? Besides being in the map, the hard part now is just applying them towards the next step. So we do have a couple theories in terms of how these will actually form a cipher or a key. So maybe the text we thought could be linked to how the Apothecon Riftstone or the summoning key is read in a circular fashion. So maybe drawing a circle and like going outward would give us some sort of string of text. or maybe it links to the storyline, since a lot of this stuff is tied to Mob of the Dead characters and the Shadows of Evil character. Not to mention each section of the map is tied to a different character in this map, like the Junction and Spawn and all is the Magician, the Waterfront's the Boxer, and so on. So that's how it might be tied with storyline and stuff, but we're basically trying to get an order for all this text to now put it into some sort of cipher or key or something like that. So if I had to sum up this video and just put it into like a headline, basically we've gone and found a bunch of hidden characters around the map, and now we're currently organizing the list and brainstorming ways to now order these letters to form a cipher or a key. But if you want more information or want to be part of this Easter egg hunt, you can join my Discord, which is linked below. Our community is actively working on this every day, and we have all the resources for this Easter egg and also just any unsolved Easter egg in COD Zombies. But there you'll find a lot more information on this and be able to talk with people who are actively hunting this if you're interested. I really feel like this is our best lead for the impossible Easter egg at the moment. So the more brain power we put towards this, we might actually be able to find how these letters and numbers might organize into some sort of string to form this cipher. We have a bunch of ideas, but I kind of hit the highlights for today's video just to kind of update you guys. But I'm hoping in the coming weeks that we'll have more updates on this, and hopefully we can do the impossible. But I really just wanted to make this video to bring attention to this and, serve as a call to action while we're working on this to translate these characters. But that is going to wrap up today's video. I want to give another thank you to Lupercal and also my teammate Unveri for helping me with this. My name is Absoulem. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.